Hello, my name is James Brewer. I'm the chair of the Department of Neurosciences at UC San Diego, and I also direct the Shiley-Marcos Alzheimer's Disease Research Center at UC San Diego. I'm here to tell you a little bit about the exciting efforts that we've made to take care of patients with Alzheimer's disease and to give them access to the research opportunities at UCSD. The cooperation between what we've started called the Center for Brain Health and Memory Disorders and the Shiley-Marcos Alzheimer's Disease Research Center is, in my view, one of the most advanced approaches to caring for patients with memory disorders. So I want to tell you a little bit about that, but first I'll give you a little background about myself. I'm a neurologist, and my training started even as an undergraduate many, many years ago, taking care of some patients with Alzheimer's disease in a research study that was looking at their brain activity that was related to the progression of the illness. At that time, I decided I really wanted to continue this work and get an MD PhD degree so that I could not only take care of patients, but also do research that may help find a cure. So I finished up my MD PhD degree at Stanford and went on to Johns Hopkins for my neurology training. After that, in 2004, I came to UC San Diego and started a small lab looking at brain imaging of patients in Alzheimer's disease to look for ways that we could detect this disease earlier. At that time, we really didn't have a good way to look in the brain and understand whether a patient who was living had the illness. Now I'm going to tell you about some really exciting advances that allow us to do that. But at the time, this was very early days, and we hadn't developed those yet. So progressing through my research, I eventually came to direct the Shiley-Marcos Alzheimer's Disease Research Center, which is a true honor because this has been a very storied institution that's been around since 1984. So it's developed extremely deep roots in the community and a very, very well-known reputation across the nation in terms of its Alzheimer's research. The center was really the first of 5 centers in the whole nation to develop this kind of a program. And since that time, about 32 centers are now in the United States looking at work for Alzheimer's disease, and we cooperate as closely as possible to advance the science. So that's the Shiley-Marcos Alzheimer's Disease Research Center, which truly is a tremendous organization for helping propel the science of UC San Diego and the nation. I'll tell you a little bit about that later, but the environment that this center is in is one of the most exciting neurosciences environments in the nation. In fact, the UC San Diego Department of Neurosciences is the #1 NIH-funded Department of Neuroscience in the nation. So that really represents how strong the science is at this center right here in San Diego. The community in which that department is housed is also really, really exciting because UC San Diego, as you know, hasn't been around for much more than, say, 50 years. And in fact, even in competing against some of the top storied institutions, Harvard and Yale and Princeton and all these very, very rich history institutions, UC San Diego is right up there with them in the top 10 in medical research, which is quite remarkable for such a young institution. And I think it also demonstrates what a really up-and-coming university this is, and also that it's an entrepreneurial advanced center to be able to do this kind of work and reach the top echelons of science in such a short time. One of the things that this young atmosphere provides is the spirit of collaboration and cooperation. So we haven't had hundreds of years to develop silos where large research groups don't want to, threaten their history. In fact, since we're a young institution, these other groups are all interested in trying to band together and see what we can do as a group. And that's really exciting in a place like UC San Diego because it's a center that has not only the medical institution right there on the La Jolla campus, but also a top-notch school of engineering, School of Pharmacy, now a School of Public Health, as well as the main campus. And then beyond that, there are tremendous organizations like the Salk Institute, the J. Craig Venter Institute, to really advance the science of genetics and stem cell work. So I think it's just a really unmatched organization to do this work. What I want to turn to now is to talk to you about what we've started, and this was one of my real interests, knowing my real passion for treating patients with Alzheimer's disease. One of the mismatches that I saw when I first stepped into the role of chair of the Department of Neurosciences was that we had the world's leading Alzheimer's research, and yet patients were having trouble getting into the center when they were referred to us. So I wanted to try to fix that. And so one of the first things I took on was to propose a business plan to co-localize a memory disorder specialty group within the space of the Alzheimer's Disease Research Center. That has now finally come to fruition, and we have a very robust multidisciplinary memory disorders care group that is based right there at the Shiley-Marcos Alzheimer's Disease Research Center. We call it the Center for Brain Health and Memory Disorders. So the group, what we wanted to take care of is the fact that when a person with progressive memory disorders is needing to be taken care of, they have many needs, and that can be quite varied. From the earliest stages in terms of just understanding what this disease is and being able to be connected to the center's research resources, the resources of the ADRC, and the community's resources. So we definitely needed a social worker to be a member of this team. But we definitely needed one of the very rare specialists that you don't see many of these around the nation, in fact, true dementia specialists in the field of neurology. We actually have 5 of them. We have 5 of them right there at the center, and so access should not be a problem. And in fact, working hand in hand with these dementia specialists are neuropsychologists who are specialized in testing patients in their memory and their cognition, so that we can get a real good sense of what a person can do and what they can't do, and what we should be most concerned about in their activities of daily living. We also have, in fact, and we've really been pushing to give access to patients who speak Spanish, and that has not been very available until now. We now have Spanish-speaking neurologists and Spanish-speaking neuropsychologists and neuropsychometrists. That means a person who's specialized in actually administering the tests and also interpreting the tests and applying those to the clinical care of that patient. So I think I'm very excited about that, because I think the Latino community really has been less served by the specialties in the San Diego area, even though the Latino community is quite large in this area of the country. So I feel like we've done a great job trying to address this disparity, and also to try to get Latinos into the research endeavor, including some of the work that we do in genetics. So just a little bit more about the Center for Brain Health and Memory Disorders. We, in addition to this team of specialized diagnosticians, we also have a geriatric psychiatrist involved. So when the disease becomes very severe, sometimes there's difficult cognitive issues that develop into behavioral issues or even hallucinations. We have a specialist on board to be able to help with that kind of specialized care that's needed. And further, we have a geriatrician, because a lot of times there's a whole body of health issues that need to be taken care of, not just the brain. So we brought on a geriatrician to help in dealing with other medical issues, and also the many problems that tend to come with taking too many medications, and medications that interact with one another. So we think we've developed a really, really exciting team, all brought together to try to help in patients with Alzheimer's disease and other memory disorders. But further, one of the things that we need to do to bring not only the care of the individual patients in San Diego to a higher level, but to actually try to cure this illness, is to get those individuals involved in research. If they're interested, we have a very streamlined approach at the same location to be able to allow these individuals to enjoy the fruits of research, but also to participate in the approach of learning more about the disease. So the Shiley-Marcos Alzheimer's Disease Research Center is really excellent at that, and we have clinical trials in place as well as investigator-initiated trials. So one of the main things we try to do is to provide our researchers with the absolutely best characterized individuals, not only cognitively, but also what we call biomarkers. Biomarkers are a way to look inside the body and understand what is going on in the molecular, with the molecular pathways that are going wrong in this illness. So biomarkers include imaging biomarkers, biofluid biomarkers, even microbiome biofluid markers, meaning checking all the bacteria that is either in your gut, in your mouth, or in your skin. And these all may be, there's advanced research that may tie these to some of the characteristics of the disease. We're looking at this and also tying it to whether we can see the progression of the illness change as we make interventions, whether that's exercise or whether that's a drug that's given. These are all the things that are going on at the Shiley-Marcos Alzheimer's Disease Research Center. One of the things also that I'm super excited about is the ability to actually take skin biopsies from our patients that allows us to get a bit of living cells that can actually be transformed into neurons, into the brain cells that we see that are affected in the disease. Why is that important? Well, in the past, we could only mimic this disease using mouse models or other animal models that were an imperfect mimic of the human disease of Alzheimer's disease. So you may have seen many papers or press reports on, oh, this promising drug is going to stop Alzheimer's disease because they saw the mouse get better after the drug was given. Well, so many times we've kind of been misled by those models because they really don't mimic the human disease. So we've sometimes called that, well, another cure for Mouseheimer's, but not a cure for Alzheimer's. Now we're able to actually look at human cells, take them from just the skin, and really advanced techniques with our center is able to turn those cells into nerve cells, put them in a dish, the same genetic background as the patient had, and be able to look at what impacts a drug might have, or also to look at what the interaction between the genotype or the underlying genetics are with the molecular pathways that might be going awry in this disease. To me, that's extremely exciting because this is a human disease. It should be studied with human cells. So one of the things that we developed at the Shiley-Marcos Alzheimer's Disease Research Center is a group of people that are very specialized at induced pluripotent stem cells. This is the way of actually turning these skin cells into neurons so that we can study them in a variety of ways. To me, it's exciting because I know now from our genetic work that we have a roadmap to try to improve this illness, because there are certain genotypes or certain genes that, of course, predispose an individual to Alzheimer's disease. And the converse of that, there are certain genotypes that protect a person from Alzheimer's disease. If we can mimic the protective genotype, we will have a disease-modifying therapy that would take a person with high risk and turn them into a person that is low risk. And that's my dream, and that's my hope that we can do as we bring together the Center for Brain Health and Memory Disorders and the Shiley-Marcos Alzheimer's Disease Research Center. A couple of things just to leave you with some ideas on what one can do for helping keep your brain healthy. It's one thing that's quite clear is that good cardiovascular health is good cerebrovascular health. That means the same vessels that feed your heart are feeding the brain, and certainly we want to have good blood flow to the brain. So everything that you would be doing for good heart health, like keeping your cholesterol under control, your blood pressure under control, if you have diabetes, keeping that under control and keeping your blood sugars closely monitored, that's also going to be good for brain health. We do believe that there's a two-hit problem if you have cerebrovascular disease and Alzheimer's disease. So the one thing we certainly want to do is keep those vessels as healthy as possible so that they can clear out the bad proteins that we can now detect using non-invasive brain imaging in our center. So that's one of the things I think is very, very exciting as a change, that we can now look within the brains of healthy individuals using a technique called PET scanning and see whether the brain is having the bad effects of Alzheimer's disease by looking at two main proteins. One is called amyloid protein and the other is called tau. We can now look non-invasively at it, and that has really extended our ability to see what kind of impacts either a therapy or an action or being socially connected or being educated or doing your brain training type exercises. We're now able to track whether that's having an impact on the underlying features of the disease. I think it's an extremely exciting time in this field. We've had a long time of difficult disappointments, from therapeutics to just other challenges in this illness where we weren't able to really tell our patients, hey, we have hope on the horizon, or didn't feel like it. Now I truly do feel like there's great hope on the horizon. And we're really excited to partner with you and partner with the community to try to bring those discoveries to fruition. I'm happy to be contacted in any way if you need to get in touch and learn about the Center for Brain Health and Memory Disorders or the Shiley-Marcos Alzheimer's Disease Research Center. I hope we'll be able to give at least a pamphlet or something that will give you the contact information, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks very much for your attention, and I hope I can meet you in person sometime soon.